Tonight on the LNT, her hometown in Puerto Rico was devastated by the hurricanes. Sick and tired of waiting, a Sacramento woman is now taking matters into her own hands to try and help out.
What do schools do to keep our children safe? That's what one family is asking after learning that their 5-year-old simply walked off the school grounds and was found at a convenience store a quarter-mile away.
We're in Mexico City assessing the damages of the earthquake that happened just over a week ago.
But first, here are a few stories you may have missed.
People saw dust flying from a distance, and up close, it was a lot worse. Climbers captured this moment after rocks fell from Yosemite's El Capitan Rock Formation. One person was killed and another person was injured.
Police are now showing us what happened when officers were shot in South Sacramento earlier this month. They released 15 body camera videos, and we got to warn you, some of this footage is hard to watch.
Drop the keys out the window! Put your hands up where I can see them! Get your hands up!
The officers are recovering, and the shooting suspect, 41-year-old Eric Arnold, was killed at the scene. He was wanted in connection with the deaths of 2 people.
As early as next Monday, O.J. Simpson could be a free man. The former football star is now 70 years old, and after spending 9 years behind bars in Nevada, it's not clear where he'll go next.
Plus, don't fall for this Netflix scam. Fake emails are being sent saying that there is a problem with your account. Schemers ask you to click on a link and then enter your payment information. It's a good reminder to always check who the email is from before you click enter.
And we want to begin with breaking news tonight. Hugh Hefner has died.
Yeah, social media has been exploding with comments since word spread. So let's go right to Irene Cruz, who's monitoring our social feeds.
All right, Chris and Liz, I've been watching the internet just explode with those comments after this news broke. Playboy founder Hugh Hefner died at the age of 91. He died of natural causes in his home tonight, surrounded by family. Hefner was most known for revving up the sexual revolution in the 50s and building up the Playboy empire. He published the first issue in 1953 featuring naked photos of Marilyn Monroe. In 2012, Hugh Hefner married playmate Crystal Harris. He leaves behind 4 children. And get this, he bought the crypt next to Marilyn Monroe in Hollywood, which he planned to be his final resting place. And here are what some people are saying on our Facebook page. Barbara wrote, regardless of how one might have felt about him personally, he was definitely an icon of his time. Rest in peace, Hugh. Tony says, sad to hear Hugh Hefner has passed away. What an incredible businessman he was. Meantime, Sam tweets, Hugh Hefner reminded us that our bodies belong to us, that sexual freedom is the emancipation of sexual expression.
Now let's get straight to that growing humanitarian crisis in Puerto Rico. It has now been exactly 1 week since Hurricane Maria tore through the island, and the conditions there are getting more dire by the day. You may have seen these headlines today. Only 4% of the island has power. 80% of all telecommunications are down. Just over half of the 3 million people who live there have clean water. Now, so many people, and you may have seen this on your Facebook feeds today, are now asking if Puerto Rico is getting the help that it needs from the United States. What we know, though, is that right now there are 16 U.S. Navy ships assisting in relief efforts, together ferrying in 4 million meals. In fact, the footage you're seeing right here is from our own Michael Anthony Adams, who is embedded with troops from Travis Air Force Base bringing in supplies. But even so many, including the mayor of San Juan, say that it is not enough. New York Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez went so far as to say this on CNN.
This is going to turn to be Mr. Trump's Katrina.
In response to this criticism, the White House released photos of the president in the Situation Room getting briefed on Puerto Rico, and he said this to reporters.
Puerto Rico is a very difficult situation. I mean, that place was just destroyed. That's not a question of, gee, let's dry up the water, let's do this or that. I mean, that place was flat.
Now, Trump plans to visit the island on Tuesday. Regardless, there is a long road to recovery in Puerto Rico, and the consensus among everyone is that these people need resources and help.
And Liz, we've actually been speaking to a woman here in Sacramento. She has family there in Puerto Rico. She hasn't been able to reach them, and so she's taking matters into her own hands. ABC 10's Ananda Rochita has that story.
We met with Carmen Garcia Gomez at her home. A Puerto Rican tradition is to serve food to guests, but we came a little bit early.
Golden butter recipe.
She grew up in Peñuelas, located on the southern tip of the island.
So do you go back to Puerto Rico pretty often?
Yes, actually my husband and daughter and I were just there the end of August, the last week of August. And when I got there, I was so emotional. I don't know why. The second night we were there, I talked to my husband and I said, I'm sorry, honey, we're gonna have to change our plans. I need to spend every single minute with my family.
Do you know how your grandparents are doing?
No. I know they're okay. We know they're safe.
You talked to your uncle, right? When you talked to him over the phone, what did he say?
So the conversation was very short because we had very bad signals. And I said, what do you need? And then the phone died. And then I called him back and he finally answered and he goes, we're okay for a few days. We're okay for a few days. That was Friday.
As we waited for the cake to cook, Carmen showed us pictures from her last trip.
This is my grandma on her 80th birthday. This is my side of the family.
So the Puerto Rico that you remember,
it's not going to be what it, I mean, no. The Puerto Rico that I remember is in my memory and in my picture.
Carmen is determined to fly out to Puerto Rico next week. She's hoping she'll hear from her family by then so she can help and get them what they need.
There it is.
All done. In Sacramento, Nanda Rochita, ABC 10 News.
And now to Mexico City. ABC 10's Lilia Luciano is there tonight after that magnitude 7.1 earthquake.
We just landed in Mexico City. We're here to meet Dr. Kit Miyamoto. He's a structural engineer who's based in Sacramento, so we can follow as he goes and assesses the damages of the last 4 earthquakes that have shattered different parts of Mexico City, of Puebla, and other smaller villages.
We're gonna go see some of the damaged buildings and see how those things are performed and how actually doing it. And if there's any technical assist, we will do that.
A week and a day after the 7.1 magnitude earthquake killed more than 300 people and destroyed over 30 buildings in the capital city of Mexico, we got to Tlalpan, where civil protection teams were clearing out a completely collapsed building. As Kit assessed the damages, I spoke with the workers. One of them explained that 9 people died there, but others were saved. Pero pudieron salvar algunas personas con vida. Dr. Miyamoto explained that this is thanks to a mechanism that Mexico has, but in California we don't.
Okay, 9 people we lost, also 6 other people who are able to escape from a building. The main reason is that they have an early warning system here, which is that you can kind of see that side, look like a big speaker up there. Yeah. In this case, people are talking about they had about somewhere between 20 seconds to 40 seconds, you know, depends on who you're talking to. Yeah. They have that type of the duration to be able to escape.
We continued touring buildings through the city where the signs of everyday life were still very present, and the sight of destruction stopped us in our tracks. They can't go back.
No.
Like they lost everything.
Well,
even though the building still stands, they're not going to recover anything because it's too risky to go.
Oh yeah, exactly. This is like equivalent to either yellow tag if close to red tag, right? Probably yellow tag, which means that quite a bit of a non-structural damage going on. Mm-hmm. So it's really too dangerous to actually even go into this building.
Yeah.
Just devastating images. Keep in mind, if you want to help in the recovery operations in Mexico, we put together a list of organizations who can use your support. Head to abc10.com for more.
And now we're also keeping an eye on Asia this week, and people are leaving Indonesia for other countries after hundreds of earthquakes have scientists worried volcanoes may erupt. Here's Monica with more.
We've been tracking 3 volcanoes and the increase in activity. It's causing the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people in Indonesia. Let me show you where this is. It's around an area called the Ring of Fire, which actually starts off along our coastline here in the United States. And then it goes all the way to the other side of the Pacific, kind of in this U shape here. So where are these volcanoes? Well, the first one is in Vanuatu. That's an island there. And then Bali, and finally on the island of Sumatra. Believe it or not, these volcanoes can cause weather patterns that would shift. Mostly rain, lightning, and thunder right around that volcano. And then sometimes we get volcanic fog called VOG. If the particles that are emitted are actually larger, it causes warming weather because we can't see that heat escape. If it's smaller particles, we actually get cooler weather because sunlight can't get in.
Well, thanks, Monica. Now to something that has happened to many children. They're not feeling well at school and they go to the nurse asking to go home. But when one Greer Elementary kindergartner was told to go back to class, the 5-year-old simply walked out the front door and started heading home down a path. Fortunately, she was found safe a short time later and brought back to school. Tonight, her mother shares her concerns with ABC 10's Giacomo Luca.
Walk me through what you understand happened.
She went to the front office saying that she didn't feel good, and they told her to go ahead and go back to class. Instead of going back to class, she walked out of the front doors of the school.
And after that, she walked down the street to a convenience store that was right next to your home, on the way home.
Exactly.
And then not only that, but there's that lack in communication in the time in between when all of this happened between you and the school.
Yeah, nobody even called me. They said they called me. They said they left a voice message, no voice message, and no missed call.
How do you think they should have handled that?
I think they should have called me until they got a hold of me.
So she didn't go to school today, and
No.
you plan on withdrawing her from the school altogether?
Yeah. I feel that if she goes back, I honestly feel that next time she feels like she doesn't feel good, she probably won't even go to the office. She'll probably just walk straight out.
Is there anything that they can do to reassure you that she'll be safe when...
No. I mean, she is my baby. Like, I gave birth to her. You can't just sit there and let her walk by herself and expect me to give you a second chance.
Obviously, a very emotional story. The San Juan Unified School District sent us this statement tonight saying the safety of our students is a top priority and the school staff have reviewed practices to identify how they might reduce the opportunity for a student to leave campus. That includes implementation of an escort for all kindergarten students and increased supervision of the area between the school office and the kindergarten rooms. Well, he was known for trying to make Stockton a better place, and now, almost 2 years later, Tim Egan's case has gone cold. We are hearing from his family, still hoping for answers, and the detective trying to make a difference.
The most technologically advanced newsroom requires the fastest and most reliable network, the ABC 10 Information Network. Connected to you, powered by Xfinity.
Welcome back. It is not the best way to kick off the border wall prototype construction project right here in California. Take a look.
different.
What started out as a behind-the-scenes tour of the site on its second day turned into an emergency as a worker fell into a 40-foot hole. Cameras were there as crews scrambled to rescue the worker after he fell in. The man was pulled from the hole after several minutes using a crane and treated by EMS on scene. According to a site supervisor, the worker had some minor scrapes on his elbows and was cleared to return back to work. The Placer County Sheriff's Department tweeted out this video of 32-year-old Robert Early of Sacramento being arrested. He's accused of stealing a car in Auburn and leading police on a wild chase. Rockland Police, Auburn Police, and the Regional Auto Theft Task Force all responded. The suspect eventually wrecked the car and took off running, but listen to this. He was located in a shed off Magnolia Street in Loomis. He's now in the Auburn main jail with bail set at $175,000. A suspect has died after a police chase and standoff that started in Fairfield and ended at the Interstate 80 and 580 interchange in Emeryville. The suspect was wanted in a homicide investigation. The standoff ended when the suspect got out of the SUV, opened fire, and was shot by officers. At least 12 police cruisers surrounded the SUV, shutting down traffic for miles in all directions for at least 2 hours.
Last month, I went down to Southern California for the Parents of Murdered Children Conference. I was with a group of parents from our area, and I felt so honored that they trusted me to tell their stories and that they wanted me to be a part of their journey as they try to cope with this pain. While down there, I met even more parents with heartbreaking stories to tell, parents like the Egans. Tonight, we want to revisit the cold case of Tim Egan, a man who had so much to offer the city of Stockton.
I stumbled across this saying, and the saying is happiness is only real when shared. So that saying just kind of brought me to this.
Listening to him now, you can hear the confidence and pride Armando Perez takes in his art. It's all over downtown Stockton.
Try to kind of incorporate that with my art. I usually have two subjects, and somehow they're connected in a way. I wanted to do this, but Tim was the one that kind of pulled me out. Tim is Stockton. Say he brought people together, and he just kept on pushing for like better and better and better.
On September 13th, 2015, Tim was found stabbed in the stomach, lying in the gutter. He was only 32 years old.
Yeah, this was actually the last time I saw Tim. He called me up. He asked me if I wanted to paint a wall, and I said, of course.
Armando is just one of many who grew up in Stockton and found a leader in Tim, who wasn't even from here. The real estate developer from San Diego moved up for work, but not being a native, his impact actually seemed to be greater.
I think that was like the biggest eye-opener to me, is the fact that somebody believed in Stockton so much, where us Stocktonians didn't really see it the same way. But my heart really goes out to the people that are like really close to him. This guy, I met him just for a short amount of time, but imagine what his family feels like.
I think there's probably more than one person that knows something. I just, if one of those people would just step forward and say something and just, just consider the family and what we're going through now. We can't move forward.
That's Tim's father, Jeff Egan, talking to ABC 10 in December 2015, 3 months after the murder. He was hoping for answers. And this is Jeff and his wife, Teresa, now, 2 years later, still hoping for answers. Their life now completely unraveled. That's why they're here at the Parents of Murdered Children Conference in Irvine.
We have, obviously, Tim's death is enough of a trauma to have to go through, and there's multiple other layers, not knowing who did this, not knowing why it was done.
In August of 2016, just short of a year later, Tim's parents were notified that the case was going cold.
I think really the case was effectively a cold case for months before that. I don't think they were actively investigating it. Probably for the first 3 or 4 months they were.
When I hear cold case, I think it's not something that's currently being looked into. It's not something that's active. But from my understanding, it's still very active and you can't speak about the details.
Correct. A cold case basically is that the lead investigators have either exhausted the leads they could take at that time. It could in fact be just because they've received other fresher cases and it's hard to get back to the old case.
Detective Johnson says he's been looking into this case since September of last year, so about a month after it went cold. He's a longtime investigator who came out of retirement and is now working part-time. But are you doing that with a lot of cases? And are you the only one doing that?
To answer your first question, yes. To answer your second question, yes. Recently, the district attorney's office has allowed one of their investigators to come over, and I mentioned that there's probably close to 250 to 300 cold cases. Now, currently...
that doesn't sound very hopeful.
No, I understand.
Just hearing the numbers.
Is it better to have someone working the case that maybe can't give you the 24/7? Or is it better that it just sits there potentially collecting dust as a cold case?
It's really hard to hear sometimes that there's a dollar figure attached to justice or to your son's life. I was actually told by a captain that it was a rhetorical question. He asked me when I asked him if they could do something, how many man hours would that take? How long would that take? What would that cost? I said, well, I don't know, but what's my son's life worth?
Does this sound like something a detective or an investigator would say to a parent who was maybe calling too much or asking for quicker?
Again, I can only come off of the people that I've worked with and myself.
But it doesn't sound like you would ever say something like that to someone.
Because the bottom line is what we're here to do is try to solve a case. So, me personally, I don't care if they have to send me to England to interview somebody. With regards to this case, there hasn't been an issue of being allowed to go track somebody down.
I think it would send a message to the city of Stockton that these cases can be solved. And the opposite of that is if it's not solved, the message is not that our son's life mattered any more than anybody else's, but if you can't solve the case that is in the news, everyone knows about, and is a high-profile case, what hope does anybody have in the community?
As the Egan's try to get through each day, justice remains on their mind. And remembering the man they know their son was, hoping that somebody who knows something will finally come forward.
He really had a belief in human, in mankind.
And I would ask him sometimes, well, Tim, how does putting up your skate ramp and inviting teenagers to come in and just let them skate, how does providing a space to keep the little library that a group were allowed to keep in one of their warehouses, how does that help your business? He says, well, it doesn't. He says it's just the right thing to do. He's proud of the fact that he gave jobs to muralists just for the sake of doing the mural.
Yeah, it's like the connection of love.
Like Armando's art, Tim was that connection of love to Stockton.
I mean, whenever I look at this, I remember all of the positives. Whenever I look at this, it's a reminder of like how much Tim has accomplished and what he could have accomplished as well. But whenever I look at this, it's just, I don't know, that Stockton's going in a good direction. And it takes like a special person to do that. And Tim was that person.
Tomorrow night on LNT, we'll bring you the story of Nicole Clavo, a mother who has turned her personal tragedy into a mission to help others.
All right, taking a look at our weather heading into our end of the work week forecast. Beautiful look at the Bonnie backyard. Calm conditions right now, and temperatures are down just a couple of degrees. So we have started that transition to get us to some cooler weather. Right now, our reading is at 66. We've got clear skies. Winds are out at the southwest at about 3 miles per hour, pulling in just a trickle of that onshore flow. 90 for our afternoon high tomorrow, which is fairly close to where we were today. We were at 91 for Sacramento Executive. 85 is the average, and again, we can be well into the 100s this time of year. As far as our temperature trend, we have been on the way up, hitting the 90s the last couple of days. We've got about one more day before we start to see more fall-like weather. So I thought I'd give you this photo. This was sent in from our Buttes Resort from Jim. Sierra City fall color, just gorgeous up there in the Sierra. If you have a chance and you want to get a taste of fall, that's where you need to be. All right, here comes the high pressure ridge. It's going to squeeze itself off to the east here, and that's because we've got this low moving in, delivering cooler weather. It will really start to have more of a profound impact by Friday and Saturday, lasting into a little bit of Sunday. We kind of do an up and down movement here with the 10-day planner, but overall, tomorrow's the last of the 90s. In the Sierra, highs are right around 70 for tomorrow afternoon. Afternoon highs will then be in the 60s, heading into our weekend forecast in early next week. Along the coast, after hitting a couple days in the 80s, we're in the 70s along the coast, in the 90s inland. Another warm day with light winds and morning lows starting us off right around the upper 50s to near 60. Onto the Sacramento region, we're at 91 for Oroville, and like I said, that's going to be about it. We cool into the 80s by Friday. We'll keep it there. A little warmer on Monday, but then we're right back into the lower 80s to right around the upper 70s by next week, with a slight chance of showers perhaps by the time we get to next weekend.
Jimmy Kimmel Live coming up next. Guest Liam Neeson tonight, y'all.
awesome.
Pretty good. And music from Old Dominion, so it should be a good show.
I know. I haven't heard of the band, but I have
Neither
heard
have
of the
I.
college.
I
I'm
was
wondering
gonna
if
say,
they're
we
from
gotta
there.
stick around to see how they sound. How's the weather looking for tonight?
Well, it's going to be another nice evening. We've got variable clouds out there. Lows are going to drop into the 50s, and we're on our way to near 90 for tomorrow afternoon.
Time to warm up a little bit.
Well, yeah, we've been pretty warm the past couple of days.
You can feel it. All right, thanks for joining us.